My name's Judson. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey.
Got some good news and some bad news. There is no cover charge for this event tonight. That's the good news. The bad news is this is a non-refundable speaking engagement, so you can't get your money back if you're disappointed in the speaker. You just go away disappointed. We'll start with this. A couple things. My sobriety date is May 26, 1987. And because you people took me in, to the best of my knowledge, I'm a good standing member with the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and the fellowship, and for that I'm grateful. Hadn't spoken a pretty good while. I appreciate Travis, asking me to speak tonight, so I might get kind of stumbled around and forget where I'm at, but I promise you it's just through forgetfulness and having birthdays. It's not because I've had any mood alter in anything, and I'm grateful for that. My home group is the East Rockingham group, and got a few friends here tonight. Appreciate them being here. And there's some other faces I know hadn't been kind of stick close to Rockingham. Used to come this way a lot, some years back, but I don't come up this way that much. Like I say, I stick pretty close to home. But it is good to be with y'all tonight here at the Wilder building. Kind of just takes me back with a lot of memories. I also want to tell you this, that there's nothing, I believe, with every fiber of my body, there's nothing out there, absolutely nothing, that can make you or I pick up a drink. And whatever I say tonight, I hope that that's something. I'm not going to tell you anything that you don't already know. I'm just going to share a little bit of my story with you and kind of what's happening, what it's like today, as the big book tells us to do. But I believe that there's nothing, absolutely nothing out there that can make you or I take a drink. Doesn't mean that we won't take that drink, but I don't believe there's anything out there that can make us take that drink. If we stick with this program, grow in the spiritual side of this program with a God of your understanding, a God of my understanding, a higher power, stick with the network of friends, sponsorship. I like what Travis kind of y'all's format and the things that were read. Man, we can do this thing. We can do it. And here's the deal. All we got to do is do it from now until you go to bed tonight, until I go to bed tonight. That's all. We ain't got to stay sober tomorrow. Ain't got to think about staying sober tomorrow. All we got to do is fight this battle from now, 7:15, until we go to bed. Now, I don't stay up very late anymore, so I don't have but a few hours to try to make it. But that's all we got to do. And then if we're blessed to see tomorrow, then we can start the process all over again. And I can tell you that I never set out to stay sober this length of time. I can tell you it's been an incredible journey. There's been some ups and downs, but it's been an incredible journey. But I promise you, I never set out to stay sober all this time. I did when I made a commitment to try to do this thing. I set out to stay sober one day. One day. And this is what it's turned into, and hopefully I can tell you a little bit about kind of what's happened. But as I said, I'm from Rockingham, and I'm the only person in my family, my immediate family, that's ever took drunk. Nobody in my family was fortunate enough to love alcohol like I did. So I didn't grow up seeing alcoholism. Heck, I didn't know what alcoholism was till I met you people. I knew what a drunk was, but I didn't know what an alcoholic was. I didn't know what alcoholism was. But I had a good upbringing, had a good childhood. Nothing traumatic happened in my life to see me over the edge to take a drink. I was 13 years old. There it was. It's kind of, I don't know how many Andy Griffith fans we have in here of that TV show, but there's a line in there I like that Aunt B says something to Otis about, his drinking, and he looks at Aunt B and he says, I'm sorry, ma'am. He said, I seen temptation coming. I guess it saw me first. And that's what happened to me. I saw that bottle of beer, but I guess it saw me first. And I drunk it. Drunk about 2 more. That's about all I could handle at 13 years old. I got drunk, I got sick, and I blacked out. And folks, that's my story. I mean, we can get up and go home because that's my drinking story right there. The last drunk I was on, May 26, 1987, May 24th, 1987, was the World Coca-Cola 600. I used to be a real big NASCAR fan. I've kind of waned a little bit through the years, but that is what I hope and pray is the last drunk of my life. I got drunk, passed out, got sick, blacked out. Same thing happened when I took that first drunk at age 13. It never changed. The only thing was that I found that I could drink more. I could do more than those 3 hot Heinekens that I started out with. Excuse me. I did do a lot of other substances, and there's some people in here. There's a couple people in here that I did some serious partying with. They could probably get up here and tell my story better than I can tell it if they can remember their own story. But I'm not going. I say that with a smile, but I'm glad to see them. It's just good to be able to see somebody that that a long time to come into this program and doing well, and it's good to see again all of you tonight. And I'm not used to. I just go to a smaller discussion meeting on Wednesdays and Fridays, so I'm not used to a big crowd. But it's just good that we can all be here, and we help each other stay sober. It's not necessarily a message tonight that's helping us stay sober. I think it's the power in this room that really is what keeps us sober and helps us stay sober. But anyway, the drinking thing for me, it's not nothing real exciting about it. I took drunk, and I just continued to do so. And the only thing I know, the Big Book talks about that we drink for the effect. And I go back and I think about that, and now looking back in hindsight and kind of with a little bit of knowledge and wisdom that I hope that I've gained through some years, I can see that just as clear, as I see y'all. I never drank for taste. I drank for one reason and one reason only. And that was what it did to me up here. Now, I might have said other things, but if I get honest about it, I drank for one reason, and that's to be out of control mentally. I fell in love with that. And that's what I kept chasing. That's what I wanted to keep doing. And I never... social drinking is for amateurs. We probably will never see those people. But y'all know what I'm talking about. I don't know what a social drink is. There was never a time in my life that I put alcohol to my mouth that I didn't get drunk. Not one time. And I know there's some of you that might have, you might have before you maybe crossed that imaginary line. I don't know if there's such a thing, but you might have. But I just wasn't that way. I was just drunk every single time. But I loved the feeling. So anyway, it just kind of continued like that through teenage years, and not much came from it other than, the progression of it, and just kind of doing a little bit more and more and more. And I guess by the time I was, 17, 18, somewhere along there, I'd become a daily drunk. And so it didn't take too long, and I was just one. I didn't draw a sober breath from that point until I met you people some 11, 12 years later. I just stayed drunk. And that was my life ambition, just to be a drunk. And I was pretty good at it. I could fall down with the best of them. I've been known to fall down a flight of stairs, and I know you've heard this joke before, but I've got witnesses that say that it's true, that I could fall down a flight of stairs and not spill a drop of Budweiser. I could do it right-handed or left-handed, and not everybody's ambidextrous like that, but they said I had a talent to be able to do those things and drink with vigor with both hands. It was amazing. So that was me, and the drugs were they were in there too, but out of respect for AA, I just kind of stick to the drinking side of it. I do think, again, in the hindsight kind of thing and way of looking at it, I think probably drugs kind of helped get me here maybe a little earlier, but it doesn't matter. But they were in my life too, but alcohol was my drug of choice. I might not have had the money to do a particular drug, but it didn't matter if I had any money or not. I could get drunk. I could get drunk anywhere, anytime. I didn't have to have money. And I know some of y'all can relate to that. I think at one time I had 6 bar tabs going in there in Rockingham, and I just had to start skipping around from one bar to the other because they wouldn't allow me to come back in until I paid a tab. But I just, there's nothing exciting about it. I was just a drunk. I was just your basic, common, Otis, fall down drunk. And the thing is, that's all I wanted to be. In a short time, those dreams, those ambitions, those things that I might have had as a boy that we all have. What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a fireman. I want to be a policeman. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a school teacher. All those dreams that we had as children grow up. Ooh, teacher. Ooh, I want to be an alcoholic. Nobody in this room said that, but it's what happened, And so it got to a point with me where I no longer had ambition. I no longer had dreams. I no longer had goals in life. Everything that I wanted to do was just about alcohol. That's all. I just wanted to be a drunk. And I always thought, and I've shared this many times, but I always thought that I was just kind of a slow learner. And I always thought that I was kind of slow in a lot of things. And as far as my drinking was concerned, that I would kind of grow out of it. I knew at an early age that I drank differently, or I saw some difference in my drinking in some people I hung around with. Especially once I got into my 20s and some of them had gotten married, they would be at the bar or at the tavern, or maybe even at the Tree of Knowledge. I don't know if any of y'all have ever lived at the Tree of Knowledge before, but I've spent many a day at the Tree of Knowledge. But they would do something responsible, like go home and cut the grass or go home to be home at a reasonable hour. I didn't see anything useful in that kind of living. And I saw that, kind of early on, and kind of thought, that I was a little different from that. But again, I had no responsibility. All I wanted to do was just stay drunk. Now, I worked because I had to support my habit. My parents, they were the type that their motto pretty much was, you could work just as easily as we can. If you want to eat, if you want to live, you go work. But I was raised with a good work ethic, and I appreciate it more today than I did, as a young teenager or even, as a young person. But I worked a lot of jobs because all through my drinking time and my drinking history, there was one thing that was always something that I fell back on. It was kind of my standby. It was the thing to get me out of everything, and that was to quit. And it didn't matter whether it be a relationship, whether it be a job, whether it be my family, I quit. I quit on you. I quit on my family. I quit on my mom. I quit on my dad. See, they didn't drink. And, I didn't need them. I didn't want them. Did I still love them? Sure I did. But they didn't drink. And I had no use. I got to the point with my attitude, I had no use. They had nothing for me. There wasn't any alcohol in their refrigerator. So why would I even bother being around them? And this is the attitude that I had developed. My brother and sister, didn't want to be around them. And I'm the youngest of the three. And they, I think like most of us, everybody around us, especially family, they know that we're alcoholics, or they know that we got a problem. They see it. In my case, my parents had divorced when I was around 10, but still, both my parents lived in Rockingham. Saw them until I had cut them off. But my mom was the one who really kind of raised me and caught the brunt of everything. She caught me falling in the house drunk, at 2 o'clock in the morning. She, I would just say that, I wasn't a very good son. And that's probably, putting it mildly. And again, it just stems off from my alcoholism. I just didn't care about anybody or anything unless I could get a drink out of it some kind of way. And that was my thinking, and I was just like that horse with blinders on. I really couldn't see the trees through the forest. I didn't even know where the forest was. And I just stumbled out of it the night before, because that's where a lot of times we did a lot of drinking in the woods. But that's just how it was. I had my situations with getting in trouble with the law. I've been put in jail, a few times, and not a bunch. I know I had a deal when I was 20, where I got arrested and just did some terrible things, there to my mom, and there she is with her baby boy in her front yard in broad daylight, and all the neighbors looking out the door, seeing the blue lights, wondering what's going on, and just watching them handcuff me in my mama's front yard, because I was just drunk and out of my mind, and that was my first encounter with my alcoholism getting me in trouble. Before then, it just had been, in school and kind of at work, here and there. But that was the first legal trouble. And, I remember this. I was kind of scared because I had never been in that situation before I went to court. But I wasn't scared enough to stop drinking. There wasn't nothing out there in this world that could scare me out of a drink. I don't believe you could put a gun to my head during those days and scare me out of a drink. I honestly don't. And so that's how it was. And then, of course, I got in some more legal deal and DUI, which is what kind of helped get me to you people. And then a lot of trouble with employers, again, because I didn't like authority. I didn't like people telling me, that they wanted me to work the way they wanted to run their company. I had a real problem with that. And, they would ask me to leave. And usually before they would, my answer was to quit. And I did get arrested at the beach when I was a teenager, but that don't count because all of y'all been arrested at the beach. So, that was kind of it, and it just got, it just progressed, and again, I was drunk every single day. We were talking here a few years back at the place that I'm employed now, and this guy was talking. We were waiting for, get off work, and we just sitting around outside on a picnic table, had about 15 minutes to go. He was talking about all the jobs he had in his life. And I'm sitting there and I'm kind of being judgmental, and I'm thinking, now this guy had a lot of jobs. And I'm thinking, good gracious, dude. Man, you worked everywhere. You quit everything. Well, I got riding home, and for some reason I got thinking about it. And I started counting up my jobs. And I got to 12, and I'm still counting. I got to 20, and I'm still counting. And I think he maxed out in his 20 somewhere for jobs that he'd had in his life. I got to 25, I'm still counting. I got to 30, and I'm still counting. I counted that I had 33 jobs in my life. So that's why I tell you that quitting was the way that I approached life. If things got what I thought a little difficult, if things got a little sticky, if things got a little hard for me, my answer to everything, I'll just quit. I'll just run away. I'll take off to the beach. I'll do this. I'll do that. And just like all of us, I didn't have any walking around sense. My sponsor, good friend in AA, he likes to say, he's got a little walking around sense today. I didn't have any walking around sense. I'm thankful today that through this program, through people like yourselves, through a God of my understanding, I got a little bit of walking around sense. I don't always use it to the best of my ability, but I got a little walking around sense. By this time in my 20s, I had nothing to do with my family. Again, they didn't drink, and I didn't want to associate with them. I got evicted. Well, the first apartment I ever got evicted from in my life, my dad was a realtor there in Richmond County for a lot of years. And when I got in trouble in 20 with the law, one of the stipulations was some probation come from it, and yada, yada, yada. But another stipulation was I couldn't step foot on my mother's property. So my dad put me up in an apartment, that he rented to. And of course he had some strict rules. Oh yeah, Dad, I'll follow your rules, I'll follow your rules, I'll follow your rules. And of course I think it was, I didn't make a year. I don't know if I might have made 6 months, but he evicted me. So my first apartment, was ordered by the judge. My first apartment I was evicted by my dad. And that's just how it goes. But there was another apartment where I got evicted. I know that's shocking to be evicted from several places, but there was another apartment that I was evicted from. We were drinking one night, and the owner come up, and it was a little old, the parking lot wasn't as big as this room, and I think we had about 30 cars crammed into this little parking lot. And the owner and the neighbors got wind of it. I think the music was kind of a little bit loud, John. And so anyway, I got evicted that night. My dad actually was on the street. My dad that I grew up on, my dad still lived in that house with his wife. And the owner come up to me and said, "You got to go, Crump. You got to go now." And he said, I'm good, man. Go down there and tell your daddy." I said, "Go down there and tell him. Tell him I said hello. I ain't seen him in 6 months." And again, that was my attitude. A terrible attitude, but that was my attitude. And I really didn't care. I saw my dad 2 times a year. It's not like he lived 100 miles away. Not like he lived 500 miles away. Not like he lived out west and I lived on the East Coast. Lived right in the same town. I saw him 2 times a year. One on my birthday to try to get some money out of. 2 on Christmas to try to get some money out of so I could drink. That's all I cared about. I didn't care about him. Didn't care about my mom. So then in 1987, a series of events happened that I can only tell you God intervened in my life. There's no other way to tell you. But I got pulled 4 times in 1987. And the 4th time was the charm. And of course, I was drunk, and like I say, it was the Coca-Cola 600. And I was in Rockingham. I wasn't at the race in Charlotte. I was going around to everybody's house. Whoever I thought had beer in their refrigerator, that's who I was going to see. Let me back up just a little bit. Before this, this is maybe kind of important, but before this, things weren't looking real good, and I got a job that I thought was going to be the thing that brought me out of the abyss. I got the job of jobs, good money, dental insurance. Now, this is back in the 80s, dental insurance. I mean, I didn't use it, but hospitalization, didn't use it, but I mean, had all this insurance, good paying job, and I thought that I had arrived, and I thought this was going to be my life-changing event. But I got a job driving a beer truck. Driving a beer truck, I wouldn't recommend for anybody in this room tonight, but it's not a bad profession. And you can imagine that there's money to be made because the way you people drink, somebody's got to make some commission money on all that y'all drink. But I got a job with this company, and man, it was bad. But I had clothes because they furnished uniforms, and that was good because I didn't have clothes. I didn't spend money on things necessity like clothes, shoes, or food. I spent money on necessities like alcohol. So it was good to have some clothes that the company, furnished for me, and I had the prettiest beer truck in all of Richmond County, even prettier than the Budweiser trucks. I had the Silver Bullet Coors Light beer truck. It was a good job. It was the most money I'd ever made in my life. Had dental insurance, didn't use it. Had hospitalization, didn't use it. But after 10 months, they called me into their office, and I didn't think it was going to turn out good, but they asked me to leave the keys to that beautiful Coors Light Silver Bullet truck on the table, that they no longer needed my services. And one thing that I would do, and I was heartbroken. Now, I thought that, and ladies, just smile with me on this, but I thought that a girlfriend could really, really break my heart. But I didn't know what heartbroken was until they told me to leave the keys of that truck on the table. I was heartbroken. But what I would do is we would get beer in, and I don't know if some of you remember this, but it used to be commercials that Coors and Coors Light was shipped refrigerated, and we take it to your stores refrigerated. Well, that was mostly true. And we had a big refrigeration room there at the warehouse where I worked, and they didn't mind us going in there drinking some beer. I mean, it's a beer company, for goodness sake. You work at the bread place. Hey, you take home a loaf of bread once in a while, right? You work at the milk place, you grab a gallon of milk. We worked at the beer place. We drank a little bit of beer, and they didn't mind it. And stuff would come in by rail, by truck, and the cans would get damaged. And they did. One of the policies was don't never put a bent can on the shelf. And we would set those cases aside, and we could drink those. Well, I started out drinking the damaged cases. So in order to keep things rolling and to keep me drinking freely, I just started maybe picking the case up and just turning it sideways and dropping it. And you only got to pick it up about this high, and it will bend about every can, all 24 cans in the case. And I found myself having to do that a lot, and I was damaging a lot of beer cans to drink. And so they called me in the office, and I'll say this: these people had talked to me. This wasn't the first time that they talked to me about my drinking. They got me aside, and I mean genuinely, I believe was concerned about my well-being and my drinking. But they weren't the first managers or supervisors to ever do that to me. I've had preachers come knock on the door, or a preacher come knock on the door to talk to me about my drinking. I've had managers to talk to me about my drinking. I've had supervisors to talk to me about my drinking. Heck, I've had my drinking buddies to talk to me about my drinking. And they were sincere. I didn't hide my alcoholism. I didn't have any shame. I mean, I did a lot of embarrassing things. I didn't care. I mean, I had no shame. Again, all I wanted to do was to be drunk. So they fired me, and right before, a couple of months before this happened, I got evicted, got kicked out of the place I was living, so I started living in the woods. I decided to go homeless. And my thinking was this: why pay rent when I had an 86 Toyota pickup truck. Now, I'm not that tall as you can see, but still me stretched out in a small 86 Toyota pickup truck, it's a little tight. But my thinking, and this was my best thinking, my thinking was, why pay rent? I could sleep in this pickup truck, take what would be rent money and put it toward my drinking. And sad to say, I thought that was some of the best thinking that I had in my life. And sadly, in my mind, I believed that. So that's pretty much where alcohol took me, in my life. And as I was going to say, I got a series of events happened in '87. I got pulled. I got a DUI. The guy, I'd been drinking all day, and this was late at night, and it was a Rockingham City policeman. And he opened the truck door, and I fell out on the road. And this guy wants me to do a field sobriety test. And I'm like, and I am drunk. And I could be kind of sarcastic and smart mouth when I'm drunk. I know none of you are that way, but I could be very sarcastic and smart mouth at sometimes. And sometimes that'll cost you a couple of teeth if you're not careful. And I have experienced that before. But I literally fell out of the truck. And he wanted me to do a field sobriety test, and I said, "Sir, are you kidding?" I said, and I remember this. I said, "I am drunk. I can't see the white line. I know I can't walk no white line." And he insisted. I said, "Look, and I finally did this. I said, put the handcuffs on me, take me to jail. I'm drunk, And finally, I think he was so fiberglass. I can't even say the word. He was so caught off guard, let me put it that way, that he let me ride up front with him and then never did put the handcuffs on me. But when I came to in the jail later on, I thought about, I was 28 years old. And I've been going hard, just as hard as I knew how. And like I said, I hadn't drawn a sober breath. In many years. I was a daily drunk. 7 days a week, I was a falling down drunk. And, I thought about my life, and I got a little emotional, got a little tearful, and there wasn't nobody in the cell then but me. And, I was raised to believe in God, and I believed in God, but I was as spiritually bankrupt as a person could be. I won't sing in no choir on Sunday morning, I promise you. But I thought about my life and where I was, and I didn't have any place to stay. I didn't have anything to do with my family. And I kind of did the alcoholic prayer, and I just, I said, "God help me." And my brother had done volunteer work at Samaritan Colony for a number of years. And we never talked about it, but I think part of it was because of me. But that's just the kind of person he is. But he had done volunteer work out there for, I think, about 6 years. He knew that I was an alcoholic. Everybody knew that I was an alcoholic. I think deep down I knew that I was an alcoholic. The only trouble is I didn't know what an alcoholic really was. Because again, I didn't see it growing up. The only alcoholic I saw was when I looked in the mirror. So I thought, I had been to Samaritan Colony. I know a lot of you are familiar with the Colony Treatment Center. If you're not, so treatment center there, Richmond County between Rockingham and Elder. Been there for a long time. They do great works. And I had been there 3 years earlier. I didn't enter treatment. A lady took me out there because, again, she was concerned about me. For some crazy reason, I said yes. I don't know why. But I didn't go to treatment. I went to a detox for a week, dried out, came home, went straight to the bar. That was the only time that I think I didn't drink in all those years daily. So I'm here again, thinking about this place just because I know about it. I don't know what they do. I just know that my life has everything to do with alcohol, and I believe that these people do something with alcohol. I don't know if they help teach you to drink, or if they serve you drink, or if they, I don't know. But I just, that's all I really knew. That my life had everything to do about alcohol, and they had something to do with alcohol. Well, my brother, he met me in the courthouse when they were releasing me. And I'll never forget it. And it seemed like the corridor was as long as from here to that wall, but I don't think it was. And the lights were bright because it had been kind of dingy where I had come from, the jail cell. And imagine that. And he was grinning from ear to ear, you know. And personally, I didn't see too much to be laughing about myself, but I had all intentions of asking him, would you help me get in or take me out to this place? I might need some help. He said these words. He said, are you all right? I said, yeah. He said, you know I love you. I said, I know you do. He said, would you go to Samaritan Colony if I could get you out there? I said, yes. Now, y'all, I didn't say yes because I really wanted to change my life. I'm 28 years old. I'm still thinking and clinging on to the thing that I'm going to grow up one day, and this drink thing is going to take care of itself. I'm going to be 75 years old, and I'm going to be sitting on a rocking chair on a porch somewhere. Let me move up that to 80. Since I'm a little bit older, let's say I'm going to be 85 years old, and because 75 is, I'm not there yet, but I'm closer than I was. But, you know, I just thought it would work itself out, and that I would always drink, you know, and that I would grow up one day, and things would take care of itself. But if you're an alcoholic, it doesn't work that way. The progression of the disease keeps on going, and it doesn't let up. And it don't care if you're 28, 38, 48, 108. It'll kill you. It's as simple as that. We just don't believe it. And so 2 days later, I was in Samaritan Colony. I stayed there for 8 weeks. At that time, it was an 8-week program, and I'm so thankful it was. They started putting me back together. They started telling me about this program called Alcoholics Anonymous, started taking us to meetings. You know, we had, and I know there's a lot of probably Samaritan Colony alumni here tonight, but it doesn't matter, Colony, whatever treatment center. Some might have just not gone to treatment and come to A. It doesn't matter. You know, what matters is that we're here, you know, tonight. That's what matters. Today, that's what matters. But that was a special place. You know, I think God, as I understand Him, used that place in my life. And before I left, it took a while because I was still drunk for 2 weeks when I was the first 2 weeks I was out there. I was still drunk. I had drank every single day. I hadn't let up. You know, I mean, when I cut myself, you could smell the alcohol in my blood. I mean, seriously. And I mean, it come out of my pores. You know, heard somebody talking about, you know, doing some yard work today, and of course it's been awful hot, you know, and sweating. You know, I mean, you could smell alcohol coming out of my pores through sweating. I mean, that's all I was. I mean, I don't know what the thing is about the earth and how much of it percentage-wise is water and how much of it's land. It's so much greater water than land. We maybe not always think that. I was like 99% alcohol, and I don't know 1% of I don't know what. But that's how I was. So I mean, I was still drunk the first couple of weeks I was there, but before I completed the program, something happened to me, and I saw you people like yourselves, smiling. You know, seem to be okay. You know, get up here and say, I'm an alcoholic. You know, and seem to be good with that. Seem to have, you know, some joy about it. Seem to have some happiness about it. Seem to be okay. And I just thought, there's something about you people that are real. I knew that I didn't know what the word intuitive meant. I'd hear y'all read it, I couldn't pronounce it, didn't know what it meant, but intuitively, I knew that what y'all had was real. I don't know how. I just know that what y'all had was real, and I wanted it. And I made a commitment to myself. I didn't tell my roommate. I didn't tell the counselor. I didn't tell anybody. I just said, I'm going to try this thing. I don't know if it can work. I don't know if I really, truly want it to work. But I'm going to give it a try and just try one day at a time to do what these people told me to do. And it's turned into this. And I'm here with you tonight. A year and a half later, the people at Samaritan Colony offered me a job there. I worked as a counselor there for 5.5 years. Best job I ever had in my life. I left there and went to work with the North Carolina Department of Transportation. And before y'all start throwing shovels at me, yes, I am a shovel leaner, but I do it very well, and I can do it left-handed or right-handed as well. October 29th, and I'm a big believer in one day at a time, but October 29th, if God lets me see it, I'll be retiring from the North Carolina Department of Transportation. It's a dream that I had a little over 30 years ago that came to me, and I knew the colony, as great as the colony was, it takes special people to work in this field. And I wasn't quite that special, and I knew I couldn't make it there for a career, but I've had a good run with the North Carolina Department of Transportation. The state of North Carolina has been good to me, and I'm very excited, about a new chapter of my life that, is coming, hopefully, that I know nothing about. But I'll tell you this, it wouldn't be coming if it hadn't been for the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, you people, and the God of my understanding. I promise you that. Of course, I got married after about 5 years of sobriety. And Kim, some of you know my wife, she's in recovery too. We met in the meetings of AA, and I don't recommend you go looking for a wife or a husband in AA meetings, but it happened for us, and it's happened for 28 years. We've had one heck of a ride, and hopefully there is one thing. She's 2 years younger than me, so we both need our Social Security to go along with our retirement. So she still has, I'm telling her age, but she still has a couple of years to go. But if y'all do hear of something mysteriously happen to me after I retire, y'all look into that woman, because she watches too much Bravo, and there's too many women killing their husbands on that television program. She's kind of a little upset that I'm going to be retiring, but she's happy for me. But she's wanting to retire too, but she's got a couple more years to go. But we'll look forward to that. Through our marriage, we have 2 beautiful daughters, and Claire and Sarah. And we went to, Claire lives in Wilson and Sarah lives in Greensboro, and our oldest daughter Claire, she had a really bad week, and so we went to see her today, and wasn't able to stay long because I had a responsibility to be here tonight, but it was good to see her, and she's doing good. And I also got to talk to our daughter in Greensboro, and our youngest daughter in Greensboro. Again, I'm a big one day at a time person, but I can't help but say this. But in about 10 days, if she can do it a day at a time, she'll celebrate 2 years of recovery. I apologize, but not for being emotional, but it just usually doesn't happen with me in a crowd. But I just can't, as a parent, I can't put into words, because I never ever thought of myself as being a daddy. Too much of a kid myself, and too much immaturity to be a dad. But the God of my understanding made me a dad, and we had 2 beautiful girls, and again, looking forward to celebrating with her. But we're just going to take it one day at a time, and look forward to that. Life is good. There's been ups and downs, and I want to say a couple things real quickly because it's time to stop. if you're a newcomer, in like 3, 4, 5 months, something like this, and you feel great and everything's going good, I'm going to be a little mean. It's not going to last. It's kind of like if you like to ride rides. I used to love to ride rides, and still do. I just don't ride as many. I think it's that euphoria that I like about rides, but it's like that roller coaster that you want to ride. You're in line, you're all excited, you can't wait to get on that roller coaster, and you got that euphoria waiting in line. But then you get on it, and then you're kind of glad to get off of it. Well, that's how it kind of is, early on in recovery. I think they call it a peak cloud. I encourage you, and it doesn't matter how long you've been in the program, but I encourage the newcomers, don't give up. You can do this thing. We can do this thing. You're not alone. Do not give up. Under no circumstances, don't give up. Don't give in. That seat that you're sitting in, that's yours. That's your seat. Don't give it up. Keep it. There'll be another seat for the other newcomer, but that's your seat. Hang on to it. Don't let go. Because I hadn't even touched on really the good that has happened in my life. Now there's been some low points, but that's life. It's called living life on life's terms. We're all going to experience life, But here's the thing: we don't have to drink of it. Drinking does not have to be an option today, no matter what. The promises, if you're a newcomer, read those promises. You might not be there yet with your sponsor, but read each promise and think about it a minute. What does that promise mean to you? Because I'm telling you, you stick with this program, you stick with the winners, you stick with your sponsor, you stick with the spiritual growth that the big book talks about, a God of your understanding, a higher power, with these meetings, with the tools of Alcoholics Anonymous, you're going to experience every single one of those promises. Look at them. Read them and think, what do they mean to you? What does that mean to you? I do, and I've experienced them more than once. I continue to experience them. Real quickly, I want to close with this. Those parents that I had nothing to do with, tomorrow marks the second anniversary of my mom's death. My dad died 3 months later. They both died within 3 months of together in 2019. But they were 89 and 90 respectively. I was blessed. I had them a long time. They got to see me a lot of years in sobriety. I got to make those amends. But those two people, that woman that I did a lot of stuff. I don't have to live in that regret, thanks to y'all. But I can't forget it either. It won't go away. But for her funeral, my brother decided that, he, my sister, myself, that we would just do the funeral ourselves. It was kind of a last minute thing. And the minister of her church had retired and moved to another town and just didn't feel like, calling him. So my brother suggested we do it. I presided over my mom's funeral. It's something that, it sounds maybe a little morbid, but it wasn't. It's such a great blessing. For that woman that saw me, stumble in and out of her house, for that woman that had to have her baby boy arrested, in her front yard, for all those things, for all those nights that she didn't know if I was dead or alive. I got to do that, for the end of her life here on earth. And I just can't tell you what it means to me and my brother and sister. And it's because of a God of my understanding, the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and you people. My dad, likewise, there's a couple of things that happened that he went to hospice for 3 days. He had, been sick, and maybe enjoyed good health up to the end. So that was, a blessing. But my sister went to spend Monday night with him. My brother went to spend Tuesday night. I went to spend Wednesday night with him, and I was the last person to see my dad alive. I kind of feel like he waited on me, to come, so all three of his children could be there. I'm telling you, folks, man, don't give. I don't care what happens. There's going to be some rough days. Don't give up. You can't. I've been blessed with this way of life for 34 years, and I don't say that as a pat on the back. I say that to try to relay this message. Man, you think things are going good now? It gets better. There's going to be some hard times, but again, there should be, our attitude should be gratitude, and it should also be, there's nothing out there that can make me take a drink today. Thanks for having me.